I'm Mark Hoebee, producing artistic director at Paper Mill Playhouse. Welcome to Babbling by the Brook. My guest today is a Tony-nominated choreographer. He's also one of my closest friends. His work has been seen on Broadway in Honeymoon in Vegas, Holiday Inn, and also Tootsie. Please help me welcome Denis Jones. Hey, Denis, how are you?
Hey, Mark. I'm well. I mean, as well as, one can be.
In this crazy Zoom world, right?
In this crazy Zoom world. I had never heard of Zoom until this last couple of months, and now it's like something I do all the time.
Thank you for talking with me today. It's great to see your face. And
it's very, very nice to see your face too, sincerely.
It's been a while. I feel like we have such a long history of many, many projects together.
Me too.
And yet it's been a while since we've worked on something. And I just want to state at the beginning, I want to get back into the room with you working on something.
Sign me up. I'm there. I would love it. Yeah, the last one was Mary Poppins, and Mary Poppins was
it'll be
2 years ago. Yeah.
Right,
2
years. But we first met way, way back. We were an arranged marriage of sorts.
We were. We were. We did not know one another. I mean, I think we knew each other by name, but I don't know that we had ever met before we started that.
Ever met, which was funny. Well, you're younger than me, but we had traveled in the same circles of dancing on Broadway, and I'd seen you in shows and things like that, but I don't think we'd ever even been introduced.
Nope, I'm sure we had not.
And I remember it was Seth Rudetsky was sort of in charge of these large benefit performances for, it was the Actors Fund.
Yeah.
And you had done several of them already.
I had done a couple of concerts for them, and these were the big sort of staged, they're like staged reading concerts, but they're pretty much the full musical with all the musical numbers and sets and costumes, and it's essentially just doing the show, though it is billed as a concert. But I had done a couple of them already with Seth and with the Actors Fund, but then when Best Little Whorehouse in Texas came up, that is when we met.
What had you done before? What were the ones you had done before?
I had done, the first one that I did was, it was Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, with Charles Busch and Julie Halston, which was gas, so fun. And then I had done On the 20th Century also. Yes, starring Marin Mazzie, who was,
the amazing.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who was lobbying for me to work on. It was Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Yeah.
And they were benefits. They were for a benefit for the Actors Fund.
Yeah, one night only.
And one night only, like Dreamgirls. And someone, it wasn't you, was lobbying for me to direct that. I had done a national tour of it. The very, very last bus and truck of Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, that was the Tommy Tune version. And it was so much the last bus and truck. I think I told you this story, that we were playing the old Tower Theater in Houston, where a production of the show had run for several years. Our tour stopped there, and they came up one night and posted the closing notice for the tour. We'd only been out on the road for a couple of weeks because they had sold our set to Ruta Lee. Do you remember Ruta Lee?
I do. They had sold it to Ruta Lee to do her own production of Best Little Whorehouse, Texas. Oh, okay. Right. Thanks a lot, Ruta.
That closed our tour. No set, no tour. But anyway, I remember meeting Seth Rudetsky on one of the Rosie O'Donnell tours that she had done for gay families. And my partner and I had been on all those with our kids, and he was bringing on entertainment. And we talked in the hallway, and I didn't know him either, but he was like, yeah, you're that guy that I'm supposed to hire for Best of Horns. I was like,
it's good impression.
I was like, okay. And then he offered me the job, and I was thrilled. And then I think the first time you and I met was actually in your apartment.
Oh, yeah. You are correct. I had forgotten that.
I called you up, and we came over, and I had some definite ideas about the show because I had done it.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of made our way through a conversation about, and you knew the structure of these evenings very fast. sort of stunt casting, right?
Yep.
And no rehearsal time, pretty much.
Yeah, the rehearsal process is really tight.
But
But you know, we also had the you know, the great good fortune of getting like Broadway's finest. You know what I mean? To just like the consummate professionals that come in are super prepared or super joyful, and also understand like what the schedule is and what the goal is. So I mean, we were blessed.
yeah, it was led by Emily Skinner, who was brilliant,
Amazing.
and Terry Mann, who was spectacular.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I'll never forget Andrea McCardle, who was Dotsie Main. She was actually spectacular, and really sweet. And I think she and Emily, who were the only two people who showed up to every rehearsal they had been called for during the process.
Yeah. That's the other thing. No one's ever available. They're like, oh, I would love to do that, but I can't make any of the rehearsals. And great. See you at opening.
I remember one of the Aggies, who shall remain nameless, but you know who I'm talking about, who like never was there. Never any of them. But showed up and did the show and was great. But then our Jewel, do you remember?
Yes.
Young lady who had not made a name for herself was Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer Hudson.
Isn't that unbelievable?
And I'll never forget the Dreamgirls movie. We did that. I think the concert was in November or October. And then the Dreamgirls movie was opening that December.
Yeah.
And I remember her showing up, you know, no makeup, sort of in sweats, and, you know, very sort of shy and quiet, and not sort of understanding the whole process of putting this show together. And then she was great. She blew the house away, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
Opened her mouth. And
that's unbelievable.
She and Emily were spectacular together.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, 2 months later, Dreamgirls opens and she wins an Oscar. I mean,
yeah.
And now she's who she is. But
yeah,
it was an amazing experience. But
yes, it was.
That was the beginning of our relationship.
Yeah.
I think we've done. I didn't count. I should have counted 7 or 8 projects together. I can't remember.
I mean, we should be able to just run down the list super quick.
Well, I'm going to read you this list, which is Paper Mill credits, which I wasn't involved in all of them.
No.
But Chasing Rainbows.
Yes, most recently.
Holiday Inn. Mary Poppins.
Yes.
Honeymoon in Vegas.
Yes.
Thoroughly Modern Millie.
Yes.
Damn Yankees.
That is correct.
Full Monty with the one and only Elaine Stritch.
Oh my God. Yes.
We still have our Stritch marks from that production. High School Musical.
Yep.
And Meet Me in St. Louis.
Yes. You said Damn Yankees. Yes.
I did. And Damn Yankees. Well, we did several shows not at Paper Mill. Like Damn Yankees, we also did at Seattle Fifth Avenue together.
Yes.
And then we did Meet Me in St. Louis at Paper Mill, and then also at Theater Under the Stars in Houston.
Yeah, that's correct.
So yeah, we have a long history. And I was talking about this with Patrick Parker, who's the Paper Mill historian. We don't know for sure, but we think you're absolutely in the top echelon of having done choreographed the most shows at Paper Mill, because it's not choreographed. I know some you directed too, but you've choreographed 9 shows at Paper Mill. That's got to be close to the record.
I got to be up there.
I know.
Oh, I want to win. We have to find out.
Oh, wait.
What?
You know what's missing from this list? Smokey Joe's.
Oh, wow. I'm embarrassed. Yes.
Me too.
I had forgotten about, and oh my God. And that was great production.
It was.
That was a sensational production.
I mean, so many of the shows we've worked on have been spectacular. And I think part of that is our friendship and our trust of each other, but also the fact that you started as a dancer, became a director, became a choreographer. Same with me. Started as a dancer, became a director, choreographer. And I love the way when we're working on a project, and Smokey Joe's was one of them for sure, where the lines blur between who's doing what, you know? And I love the fact that we can talk the same way about something. And if I'm staging a scene and I say to you, what does that look like? And you say, here, let me give you some ideas. And then you're staging a number and I like to offer a suggestion.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, great, let's do that. But it seems to be, for me anyway, in the room with you, a very good marriage of talent, and aesthetic.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we speak the same language. We have the same shorthand. And I, you know, to your point, I think that Smokey Joe's is like a perfect example of that kind of collaboration because we did every single thing together. You know what I mean? There was no moment where you were doing scene work in the other studio and I was working on some big dance number because it's all the whole show is in the middle of those two things.
Right.
So yeah, no, it is always a pleasure to be in the room with you every single time.
But I will say,
Sincerely.
thank you. Me too. I feel exactly the same. One of my favorite moments from that show specifically was we had
I know
that.
what you
You know where I'm going.
I know what you're gonna say.
We had a chart on the wall because there were so many musical numbers and who was in what, and they were color coded.
Yeah.
If we had learned it musically, if we had started staging, and then if it was complete. It was, you know, I don't remember if it was orange, yellow, green. And we were ticking them off, and there was so much. And we had reinvented that show. We didn't do anything like was in New York. I mean, I think we succeeded in trying to find a little more connection and storyline and developing characters. But it was right toward the end of the rehearsal period. And I can't remember the song, but you know what it was. And we were lost for an idea. Remember? And we said, what if this is just the longest goodbye ever? And I can't remember who was saying it. We said, if Felicia Finley is just saying goodbye and leaving the entire song. And she started on stage, kissed the guy goodbye, and then made her way through the whole cast, across the passerelle, down through the front row of the audience, up the aisle, and spent the whole time like saying goodbye. And
Yeah, it was just the longest exit of all time. What was the song? Oh, I have to remember.
But the reason I bring that up is because you and I are never afraid to say, I don't know what to do here, right? And give me a thought, give me an idea. And I think that came on a phone call late at night where we were like saying, what if this is it? Let's just throw it to Felicia and say, we need you to take this entire number to make your exit.
Yeah.
And it became one of my...
Yeah, and she was like, okay. You got it. And it was hilarious.
It became one of my favorite moments of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've done a bunch of other shows together. Certainly, Full Monty was one that you knew. You had been in it in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were the original Buddy Kino.
I was in the original company playing Buddy Kino Walsh, the professional stripper in the play. And it was really exciting to get a chance to revisit it with you at Paper Mill. I think it's such a beautifully written show. The score is fantastic. It's very emotional and exhilarating and hilarious. So it was fun to be on the other side of things and mount a production of it that I felt honored the Broadway production, but also was very much its own thing. And certainly having Elaine Stritch as part of the company already makes it its own thing. You know what I mean? Because that just created a unique and very special experience for everybody. You know, not easy, but like kind of brilliant.
She was amazing. People say to me, what was it like working on that show? And what was she like? And I say, it was unbelievable in every sense of that word, both good and challenging. But she was an amazing performer and just wanted to work and get it right. And I will never forget, she never once got through her number completely. She never once got through a scene without stopping. We didn't run the show top to bottom until we were in front of our first audience. Yeah. And I remember that first preview, standing at the back of the house with you, sweating through my clothes, saying to you, Dennis, you were so calm. And I was freaking out. I was like, what is going to happen? And I remember you just saying to me, she's going to do it. She's going to pull it out. This is what she lives for. She's going to pull it out. And she did.
Yeah. Yeah. For all of the kind of like chaotic rehearsal process that she required. I mean, it was you know, I mean, it was really nuts. Like every single day of that process. And again, I always thought that she was like really very nice and kind and in her own way, polite and respectful in the room, but she just required and just an insane amount of attention
Yeah.
um and also with like often kind of diminished returns in the rehearsal process. But I did feel like, you know what, she's still wired to succeed. You know what I mean? If you put people in those seats, she will make it happen. And it's true. I mean, opening night, remember? I mean, we were still a little uncertain whether or not she was going to make it through this number. And this number is, you know, it's like her number at the top of Act Two. And granted, it is very wordy. There are a lot of lyrics and there's a lot to remember. And we were still a little unsure if she was going to make it through. Well, she makes it through opening night and then charges down to the lip of the stage and says to Tom, our musical director, she's like, bar 47, ba-da-da-da, ga-da-da. And then she goes into like an encore. Like she just decided to do an encore, and she knew exactly where in the music she wanted to start and exactly how much of it needed to be like for the audience to just completely go bananas. I mean, she is a kind of a nightmare but that like and heaven sent at the same time. She
She
was
was.
an incredible lady. I'm blessed to have had that experience.
I agree with you 100%. And I'll never forget that completely seemingly spontaneous encore on press night, on opening night, that
I mean,
crazy like a fox, she'd been thinking about it the entire rehearsal period, because she got a huge round of applause when she did it the first time. And then she launched into an encore. And I think people stood up, they were on their feet. And that was a testament to her power as a performer
mhm.
and her ability to capture an audience and to invade her and live a role. And also it spoke to her as a person, that she truly lived to be on stage and
Yep.
to perform. And I'll never forget when she moved out of New York, I called you up and I said, she's moving back to Michigan. And I said, you know, I think this is probably going to be the end, because if she doesn't have performing to live for, that's going to be the end. And she passed away shortly after, but I wrote her a letter. We had a very strange relationship. You know, it was good, but it wasn't always warm and you know, soft and warm. And I wrote her a letter and I just say, look, Elaine, I want to thank you for one of the pinnacle experiences in my life, directing you in the show and working with you on it. And I said, we both know the ups and downs and the challenges, but I want to thank you for that. And I don't want to leave that unsaid. She never responded or anything. I know she got it, but like you, I'm glad we had that moment in time
Yeah.
here, because there are few divas in the world like her, you know, and maybe never again, which might not be a bad thing either. But I'm blessed that we had the chance to work with her. But I want to talk a little bit further, because then as your career progressed and you ran all over the place, you called me up one day and said, look, I'm working on this project that I think is really special, and I want you to take a look at it. And that was Honeymoon in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, great, send me the script. And I don't know if it was supposed to go to Toronto. I
It was
mean,
supposed to go to Toronto, yeah, and then that fell through. And um, I mean, I had some conversations with the producers and about like the possibility of it doing a regional, like pre-Broadway tryout. And certainly, you know, my relationship with you guys it has incredible history, and it seemed like the perfect fit. It seemed like the kind of show that your audience would really respond to. And yeah, so then I sent it to you and we started talking about it, and then that was Honeymoon in
and
Vegas.
yeah, and there had never been a production. You guys had done a workshop.
We had done a workshop, yeah. We had done like a semi-staged reading. We did
Yeah,
a semi-staged reading in New York, and it was very well received. People were very excited about it. And then this Toronto plan was kind of in place. And then I don't exactly know why that didn't happen. That's a little above my pay grade. But quite frankly, I'm very happy that its path turned towards Milburn.
listen,
Yeah.
it was a great moment for us too. I remember when I went in to talk to Roy Gabbay, in his office, he showed me the artwork that said what happens in Toronto stays in Toronto for Honeymoon in Vegas. So there was definitely a plan for it to go there, but
Yeah.
we were so honored to bring it here. And I was so grateful to you that, you know, you would trust me to, I knew that there had to be something that had gone wrong with the plan, but
Yeah.
it was such a spectacular production for us. And Tony Danza, and bringing Rob McClure back to Paper Mill, who had been a kid. He'd been an interview guest actually on this program, Babbling by the Brook, but he had started with us as a student in our Rising Star program and our summer program, and worked in our box office. It was crazy. And
I forgot that part, yeah.
And then came back to star in this major musical, Jason Robert Brown music, and Tony Danza and you and Gary Griffin.
And Bryn O'Malley, also like Paper Mill star, Bryn O'Malley coming back.
And our audiences loved that show. It was spectacular. It was just a great experience for all of us. And then it moved to New York. Yeah. Didn't get its due. I feel like.
Then it moved to New York. Yeah, you're correct. You're not wrong.
No.
Yeah, no, it took a while for it to actually get to Broadway after like what was such a huge success at Paper Mill. And you know, unfortunately though, I think a lot of people enjoyed it, and it was, you know, largely well received. You know, had a fairly short run on Broadway. You know, nevertheless, it's like it was the first Broadway show that I got to choreograph. I'd been the associate choreographer on a few, and then a performer in a handful of others. So it was my first Broadway choreographer credit. So I'm hugely grateful for that. And it's like, it's a beautiful show. I think it's underappreciated in a way, particularly Jason's score, which is really so good. Yeah, that was a great experience.
One of my favorite things about that is Rob was brilliant, and that opening song of his, "I Love Betsy," that was just so fun, comedic and yet full of love, and set up the whole story. Oh, we also forgot to mention the brilliant Nancy Opel.
Oh my God!
Right, let's not forget.
Brilliant.
But and it's so heartening for me now to sit in auditions and watch people come in the room and sing "I Love Betsy."
They sing it all the time. That's the second life that Honeymoon in Vegas has gotten, is literally the audition room. Right. Because yes, "I Love Betsy" is all the time now. It's a great song.
It's a great song, great storytelling, great acting, and it's a great moment. Then you've done a couple of other Broadway shows, Tony nominations for your work, and Holiday Inn, which I thought that work was brilliant. Brilliant. When I first saw that jump rope number, it took my breath away. And then you came and restaged that here for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Tootsie, which was just huge hit on Broadway with Santino, and your work again was spectacular.
Thank you.
And then you came back to us with a little show called Chasing Rainbows.
Yes.
Which was just at the beginning of the season, not that long ago.
It was not that long ago. I think given the state of the world and stuff, it feels like a long time ago. It feels like,
but it wasn't like that long.
On another planet. Right. But yeah, no, it was quite recent. And that's also, it's like, you know, I have such gratitude to you and to Paper Mill that I was able to say like, oh, here's this something that I think you would respond to, and I think your audiences would respond to, and then, you know, we're doing it at Paper Mill. I mean, it's thank you.
Oh, please, it was my pleasure. And Tina Marie and I had known each other. Tina Marie Casamento, who's the conceiver and was one of the producers. She had played in a touring production of Victor Victoria that I had staged one of the national tours I did many years ago. So she and I had a connection. It's crazy how small this world is.
Yeah,
and how if you stay in it and stay open to the opportunities, how many hats you keep putting on. So you came back to us as director choreographer of that project, and really a guiding creative force. It had been around for a while. I'd seen an earlier version of it, which I liked but didn't love. And then you got involved, and there was another set of readings, and then we, you know, you and I talked about it, and I really liked the direction you had taken with it. bringing it to us. Another incredibly talent-filled company when you talk about Karen
Oh,
Mason,
yeah.
Ruby Rakos, Stephen DeRosa, all of those people.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that, because that transition from choreographer to director choreographer, it's a big shift.
It is a big shift. And over the last few years, I've started at other theaters, the Muni in St. Louis and the Maltz Jupiter in Florida and North Carolina Theater, and like at various other places. I have started directing and choreographing musicals, but it's but those were largely, or if not entirely, revivals of shows that I knew kind of. I mean, they were new productions of these musicals. They weren't just a kind of a restaging of the original production. They were brand new versions of musicals, and yet it is a very different thing to be working on something that is brand new. I did a production of Chicago recently down at the Maltz Jupiter in Florida, and the show is the show. You know what I mean? The book is amazing. Every song is perfect. Like it's so brilliantly crafted that you don't have to worry about any of that. You can bring imagination to it and make it unique and cast it with really interesting people and try to find new things for it to say. But like you're not rewriting it. You're not putting in a new number a week before opening. You know what I mean? So it's a different animal working on a musical that is continuing to kind of find its way. And what was so great, I think, like being at Paper Mill with our writing team from New York, and there were a lot of voices in the room, I think, helping to just allowing the musical to discover its voice, and to discover its voice in a way that is clear but also concise. I mean, the show was super long when we did the first preview. It was almost 3 hours. Do you remember that? Like the first preview, it was like insanely long for a musical. And then the effort within a week of previews largely was to just figure out how to edit our work, because just for a show like that was just insane. So I think we were able to get something like 20-25 minutes out of it within a week of previews, and that is only something that can happen if like the team is working together with the theater, with the actors, with the music team, with like everybody just rolled up their sleeves and we're like, okay, we gotta figure out how to slim this down.
Right.
So.
And it was good. Look, our audiences loved it. Loved it. And it was a great moment in time. We were so lucky to be able to produce that show in that banner year that was the anniversary of the film and the unfortunate anniversary of Judy Garland's death, and the Renee Zellweger movie had opened. In fact, Lorna Luft came to the opening night of your show.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, Lorna's a friend of the theater, and she and I toured together. Well, we didn't tour together. I was in the show. She was touring it. She played Miss Adelaide in Guys and Dolls, the Jerry Zaks version, and I was in the ensemble.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
Yes, with Andy Blankenbuehler, Roxanne Barlow. We were all in the ensemble.
Oh, my God.
So, and then she's performed here too. She was in White Christmas for us.
Yes.
She's a great friend. But she came to our opening night and was so thrilled with that show. She's very protective, obviously. She and Liza are. She always talks about my sister, and every time she says my sister, I keep thinking, is there another sister? Or is she talking about Liza? But they're very protective of their mother's image and that story. And yet they were so gung-ho about your version of this show, telling the early life story of Ethel Gum, right? Not the Judy Garland we all know, but leading up to her becoming Judy Garland.
Right, Frances Gum. Ethel
Frances.
being the mother and Frank the father. Yeah. But yes, I mean, it is just the chapter of her life from when she was very young and performed with a family in vaudeville up to the point where she films Wizard of Oz. So it's very much like chapter one of her life and career. And certainly, you know, to your point, that is something that the family has very strong feelings about it, as a family would, you know what I mean, in terms of how your mother is portrayed and how truthful it is. And even though we know so much about Judy Garland that is very sad and tragic, you know what I mean? She came, obviously, surprised to no one, like she came to a very tragic end, but there were great triumphs in her life, huge triumphs, and like in a really like singular career. It's so I think what the musical tries to do is acknowledge kind of early indicators that things may not go that well, but at the same time really, you know, champion the incredible achievements of Judy Garland.
I agree with you. And before I forget, I said Ethel Gum. And so we must also acknowledge the brilliant Leslie Margarita and Max Van Essen.
That's who played Frank and Ethel. I mean,
amazing,
wonderful performances and great human beings too.
Yeah, and there's a challenging part to that story. It's not a secret that her father was gay and that there was, you know, very difficult home life. But like you said, and, you know, Lorna, they were not shying away from that at all. They wanted that story told, but told in a careful way, which you handled very beautifully. But also celebrating the joy in this young woman and this young performer who had a dream. Everybody sort of told her it's never going to happen, and it did. And the great thing about that show is we leave on a high, right? She is just stepping into those ruby slippers, and you know what a success that moment's going to be. You know, we all know what happens later, but in that moment, in that evening of celebrating Frances Gum becoming Judy Garland, it's triumph. You know, it's joyful, and I think that was what was so brilliant about that show. Just we're winding up here. A couple of questions I want to ask. So, do you ever see a time, because you started as a choreographer and then you became a director choreographer, where you would direct a show that someone else would choreograph? I know you did it with The Wiz, right? With
Yes, and I would do. I would do that. It's tricky somehow, and I'm not with Camille. Camille's amazing, and it's like she's great to work with, but also is like this brilliant visionary. But it's definitely it is good exercise for my control issues. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm not talking about that experience. I'm talking about just directing and not choreographing.
You have to step back a little bit.
You have to step back a little bit, and in the way that, and when I work with choreographers, I want to also allow them the latitude that I feel like I like to be allowed when I'm working with a director who I feel like I trust and they trust me, who gives me kind of some wide parameters to play around within, and then we'll say, oh, here are some things that I felt when I was watching this, or like you want to have that other set of eyes to help you do better work. Right. So when I have worked with choreographers as a director, like I want to allow them that kind of space, and then also kind of, chime in with some thoughts. But, it's tricky when you're used to choreographing it, like
stepping up and doing it yourself. Right. But I also think that's one of the things I admire about you, because there are many people who go along this journey. They're a dancer, then they become a choreographer. When they become a director and choreographer, then they never want to step back, and I don't want to say it in sounding in a negative way, and just be the choreographer, because
no, I don't feel that way.
But there are people who don't do that, and I admire that about you. And my last question is, you and I have worked together so many times, I feel, as co-collaborators, but it's typically been as me as director and you as choreographer. So, do you ever see a time where you might be directing a show that I choreograph?
Oh, sure.
I'm kidding.
I don't care who's doing what. I don't care what, just to get back into the room with you, I'm like, fine. I'll do front of house, and you can, drive the paper mill van.
I think it would be so fun to do a project with you that we worked on together as co-directors and choreographers.
Oh my God.
I feel like we're a machine that moves together so well. I don't know what that is, but I'd love to discover that. That would be such a joy for me. And we'd love to, of course, have you back here at Paper Mill at any time.
Oh my God. Anytime.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. So happy to spend this time just catching up with you and to see you. And I hope we'll be in a room together soon.
Me too. Me too. Good to see you, Mark.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. And come back next week when we talk to Broadway's favorite fight director, Rick Sordeley. See you next week on Babbling by the Brook.
I heard a melody, it haunted me from the start. Something inside of me started a symphony, zing went the strings of my heart. 'Twas like a breath of spring, I heard a robin sing about a nest set apart. All nature seemed to be in perfect harmony, zing went the strings of my heart. Your eyes made skies seem blue again, what else could I do again?